Soccerex Connected, a very good afternoon. Ben Jacobs with you live from London in our brand new digital studio. Do engage with me. Use the hashtag Soccerex Connected. Day 5 wraps up about 6:45, but we've got bonus content then as we look back on the week and we announce the winners of our 2 competitions of the day. Thanks to La Liga and the ICC for providing us with an Antoine Griezmann signed Barcelona shirt and an Atletico Madrid team signed shirt. The latter for our most engaged viewer. That means you have to attend as many panels as you can. We'll add up all of your numbers and we'll find out which one of you has interacted with us the most. I can tell you right now, it helps if you tweet us as well. Send a question to this panel, which is about to get underway. Compliment us too. Have some fun. Give us a stat to keep us awake on a Friday afternoon. Anything you like, it all counts as engagement. That's for the Atletico Madrid shirt. If you want to win the signed Barcelona shirt from Antoine Griezmann, you just have to tweet us a photograph of your most iconic ever La Liga kit. Thanks to Don Dada, who says it doesn't get more 90s than this classic Barcelona Kappa jersey. No shirt, no sponsor, R9 wheeling away and celebrating. That's the Brazilian Ronaldo he sent me a photograph of. And thanks to those of you away from the competition that have also been in touch. Dave Kilpatrick says, wow, the Rain Man fan session was absolutely brilliant, far out and mind-blowing. And Callum Patterson says that he is multitasking at the moment, living a 2-job life. He's lesson planning for semester 2 for his family and idea browsing with Soccerex as well. Do engage with all of our contributors too. Soccerex Connected then, day 5, the full schedule available on the website and the app as well. But we move on now to our 4 o'clock GMT panel. It's entitled Marketing to Your Most Dedicated and Diehard Fan Base. How do you connect with those type of fans? This particular section can push your team over the line in a tough game, and they'll always arrive to games come rain or shine, but they're perhaps less likely to be buying that £10 keychain in the club shop and can quickly turn against you if they think their club is losing its identity or authenticity. To discuss this topic, we welcome Kundra, Senior Head of Marketing and Communications at Bayern Munich. From Shakhtar Donetsk, we welcome their Head of Marketing, Alex Mamalyga. And Chris Thomas is part of the panel as well. He's Senior Director of Digital Media Marketing and Fan Engagement at LA Galaxy. And from the Portuguese Football Federation, we welcome their CMO, Nuno Moura. Your moderator is the founder and CEO of DataPOWA. It's a very good afternoon to Michael Flynn.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to some of us on our panel today as well. Okay, diehard fans. These are the guys that would travel over land and sea also. They'd miss exams, they'd miss weddings, perhaps even their own weddings, to be at a match. Now, some may even view themselves as ultras and may possibly even be taking things too far. But I doubt I would. How many people here today thinking and listening would ever buy a half and half scarf? Surely no diehard fan would ever dream of doing such a thing. I'm Michael Flynn, founder of DataPOWA, as just mentioned. I headed up the Premier League sponsorship when Carling sponsored back in the day. I've sold a digital marketing business focused in sport, and I've now headed up DataPOWA. And if you missed the roundtable yesterday that we did, then you need to check us out again, because we've got some incredible new data encrypted analytics on our new platform that we'd love to talk to you about. I can see we've got another guest in Ukraine there, Alex. Thank you for inviting them in.
Pretty much, yes.
Sorry about that. Listen, D is out in, I think, am I correct in saying New York, D?
Yes, I'm based in FC Bayern's New York office, and we basically look after the whole of the Americas from there.
Excellent. And I know you know Chris Thomas, and now I've worked out why you know Chris Thomas, because of course Chris works at the Cosmos, the New York Cosmos, as well as the Los Angeles Dodgers as well. And you're out in Los Angeles, I'm assuming, Chris. Nice and early for you.
Yep. Good morning from Los Angeles. Excited to be here.
Excellent. And Nuno, I just had a quick look at Nuno's CV. I'm not quite sure if there's a company you haven't worked for, Nuno. Before you worked in this current role, you were the UEFA's marketing director, global director. You worked for Nike worldwide. You've worked at MTV, Coca-Cola, or you worked with, should I say, Coca-Cola, so on and so forth. Listen, we've got a great panel. We may as well get stuck into this straight away. And I'm going to direct the first question initially, Alex, to you. So please get ready out there in Ukraine. these diehard fans, can you actually market to this group of football fans? And if so, what on earth are you going to try and sell them? And how important are these guys in the overall marketing mix of your business? Alex, please.
Well, hi all. It's a real pleasure to be here. And to answer your question, we do market to ultras because they're very important in terms of building up the experience within the stadium. Obviously, we communicate with them, but it's not often that they like to communicate back to us, but still we try. So with that, we specifically do two things. We have a fan manager who actually talks to the guys and sometimes gets feedback from them. And we also have a different approach. Basically, every fan within our database, we score their loyalty, which allows us to assess the loyalty towards the brand, towards the club on a global scale from the whole fan base. And then obviously it's a sort of behavioral sort of metrics. So what we want to achieve is in terms of behavioral dynamic, we want to achieve that the average fan sort of visits the stadium, behaves as an ultras fan because they visit all the games. So what we are trying to do is to actually to push people to attend the games like ultras would. But obviously, we don't want some of the ultras sort of attitude.
But you actually mentioned you have a manager that talks to these guys. Yeah?
Yes, we do, because they're essential for the match day experience. If you watch games on TV, maybe in the pub, it's not the same as in the stadium. And the ultras, they do bring up the atmosphere. They're sort of the catalyst for other fans to really to push the team forward.
Yeah, no, listen, on the intro, I think someone mentioned these are the fans that will turn on the club. I'm not so sure that's true, actually. I think these diehard fans wouldn't turn on the club. Dee, just over to you next in terms of your thoughts on these diehard fans and how you market to them.
Yeah, well, they're massively important. We must market to them, less for sales perspective, but definitely to keep them engaged and kind of in line with the club. The other aspect for FC Bayern in particular is we're owned by our fans. So we have a very fan-first mentality, and fan engagement at all levels is an absolute must. So for us, it's really important to have them as part of the marketing mix because they almost act as brand ambassadors for us. They make up the chants, which people all across the world will kind of then follow. So they're hugely important.
And I guess if we can just revert and come to you, Nuno, from a sort of perspective of not a club but a national, international side, how important are these guys and girls clearly for yourself?
Yeah, super important. Obviously, national teams they do travel abroad often, and sometimes it requires fans to really love the team so much and be so engaged that they're willing to travel and support the team even 2,000 miles away. So we do obviously speak to all fans. We target to different groups of fans, but obviously we created a fan club specifically for these more passionate fans about the national team. And we engage with them probably a bit more frequently, and we also gather more data from them and speak often with them because we know that they will be there even when travel is required, or the support will always be there. So it's something we love to do. We created a club for them, and we like to engage with them on a regular basis. Not just for ticket sales, but keeping the communication going throughout the year.
Cool. No, thank you for that. And Chris, out in LA with American soccer fans, are they diehard fans? Do you have diehard fans? Tell us about them.
Yeah, it's a bit of a newer phenomenon out here, but we think kind of these groups of supporters are sort of a key driver of growth for our sport. So yeah, we don't necessarily market to them. I don't think you can convince anyone to travel across North America to watch the team, but The management of those groups, we moved that. Used to be sort of security would deal with them or tickets would deal with them, but we moved that management of them to our marketing department because we felt these guys are out in the community, they represent our brand, they have tattoos, they wear jerseys to work, like, so we felt that they're such a important part of our club and how our brand is out in the community that we wanted to be within our marketing group. So yeah, we find people that are passionate about the club to be our key demographic that we're trying to target.
Sure, and I guess in terms of, you know, an importance that runs through all your clubs, and it's mentioned, I guess, specifically by Alex, but the fact that these are the guys that are really cheering and making noise and sort of leading sometimes when things aren't going so well on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, for us in the States, we think that the atmosphere that diehard fans provide is the single biggest thing that distinguishes our sport from the myriad of other professional sport options that, especially in LA, I mean, there's 10 other professional teams, but really at our stadium and yeah, other soccer stadiums are the only times you'll get an atmosphere like that.
Yeah, well, let's perhaps we can talk a little bit more about that in another question. If I can move on to the next question now, and I guess it's probably a question that in some way or another has been asked throughout the Soccerex all week, but this pandemic, how has that affected it? Can we even reach these diehard fans during the pandemic? You know, maybe they're not accessible. There is no game, so they're not there. They can't travel anywhere. All they can do is sit and watch it on the television, like the rest of us, by the way. Are they even on any database of you guys? You know, how can you market to these diehard fans as well that are thousands of miles away? In the case of yourself, Dee, looking after Bayern Munich. So, what's your thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, as mentioned, I'm based in the New York office for Bayern Munich. And for us, diehard fans aren't the ones that are at the stadium week in, week out. We have a huge network of fans across North and South America, which we've been working with since 2014, since we opened our office in New York. And I think the important thing to say is they're just as passionate. It's quite incredible. So to give you an example, I went to the LA fan club. They got together for a watch party. It was some ridiculous time in the morning. They're happy to get together at 5 a.m. They watch games, and the chants and the experience was exactly the same as being in the Allianz Arena. It was amazing. We've also got a fan club member in Colombia, for example, and he's renamed his villa Zebrstraße, which is the name of our training ground. And he's got all of his kind of FC Bayern pieces on show, and he lets people in to come and see them. So it's quite an experience that we're finding out from all of our different fan clubs dotted across the Americas, that actually they are very diehard. They just don't have the opportunity to come to Munich every weekend. In terms of do we have a database, we are in touch with our fans all the time, either via social media, which when we set up our office in New York, we set up a US Twitter and Facebook account. And this was initially used as a fan services tool. We wanted fans to feel that they had local time access to us. So initially it was set up as that. And we knew we had so many fans when we set up the office, millions of them. The problem was they didn't know about each other. So by us opening the office and starting a dialogue and really kind of communicating with these guys, we started off with 8 official fan clubs in 2014, and we now have 159 across 46 states in North America. So it's pretty impressive. And I think in terms of, you know, our strapline at the moment, for example, is the world's biggest sports family. And that's because we have over 295,000 members across the globe, more than any other club. And we also have 4,500 organized fan clubs across the globe. So we are very coordinated and in touch with our fans.
Oh, great. Alex, over to you. I mean, do your fans even know where your stadium is? Because you haven't had your own stadium for, what, since 2014, is that right?
Yeah, we've been playing in 3 different stadiums since 2014. Obviously, for us, we're going to start playing in the new stadium. And I think what the dynamic of the fans is going to be, I'm not too worried. I'm responsible for basically attendance numbers and revenue generated from the attendance.
Right.
But provided our experience and our measurements, we do realize that COVID specifically, however you put it, the loyalty towards the club has dropped. Overall, within the fan base, obviously we have social media engagement, obviously we have communication, stuff like that, but our internal assessment does provide the numbers that the overall loyalty, the overall affinity towards the club dropped. So how it's going to transcend is when we start playing at the new stadium with attendance. I'm not too worried about the first couple of games. The first couple of games, there's going to be good attendance. We'll be able to market it effectively. There's no problem. The issue will come in when the conditions will deteriorate, and diehard fans, any type of fans, they didn't have the behavior, to go every other week support the club. Now that behavior is sort of gone. So the challenge will be to get those fans back to the stadium in the new location when they didn't have the behavior like that for over a year. And maybe some of them may have gotten big screen TVs, some of them may have gotten different family situation, and they will think twice before actually going on a rainy day to the stadium and supporting the club. So based on that, I believe the first couple games are going to be good, but then marketing challenge will arise, and it's going to be up for marketing to push. Well, we're not going to be pushing too much ultras because a couple hundred of them will show up, but to populate the whole stadium is going to be a challenge for us, because we're going to play in the arena of our main competitor, main adversary.
Just a quick question, just let the audience understand, how far away have these stadiums that you've been playing in been from your original base?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we've started about 1,000 kilometers away. So we're basically we're the most eastern. We're coming from the most eastern city, and we went to the most western city. It's about 1,000 kilometers away, 600 miles, and then we moved back to close, about 200 kilometers. It's about 120 miles, and then we came back to Kiev, which is in the middle. So we've been all over the place, but we've been able to really work out the strategies, the marketing approach, how to really. The marketing issue is not getting fans to one game only. It's getting the behavior right so that people come back in the second game, third game, and so on, even when the opposition might have no chance. And that is the essential marketing sort of gig for us. So we're trying to we have approaches that worked, and we're constantly developing our approach to be more effective and to be more responsive and to get actual people to the stadium.
Yeah, it sounds like anybody who turns up to one of your games has to be a diehard if they've got to travel that far. That's
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Chris, that's perhaps slightly different with yourself, because I'm right in thinking your season hasn't kicked off yet, has it? And tell us, can you read your fans?
Yeah, the pandemic came at a really tough time for our diehard fans. We had spent the previous 3 years. Sort of our supporters were kind of spread out throughout the stadium, and what we did was built a brand new supporter section, like safe standing behind our north goal. So it was a project literally 3 years in the making. We brought all these supporters together to come to form this new sort of supporter section. It was like $1 million sort of construction project, something I was really, really proud of. And we had one game, 2,500 people in there. It was incredible atmosphere. We had one game, we lost that game, and then the pandemic hit. So it was pretty unfortunate timing. So our whole efforts around sort of diehard fans since then has just been trying to keep up that momentum. We had, like I said, incredible momentum heading that one game, and then it just sort of fell off just because of what happened. So so it's all been trying to recreate little aspects of our fan traditions. So we after the games, our players always support or kind of like salute that section. So virtually trying to recreate that by having their video up on the Jumbotron and having the players support that. We've had them create banners that travel with the team, put them up in their meal room. So we've had lots of Zoom calls, every time we sign a new player, they have like a Zoom sort of introduction with our fans. So a lot of little tactics to try to keep up the momentum, but certainly it's been challenging because you really can't replicate the experience of thousands of people standing and singing in a stadium. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we're all seeing that. It's a different experience watching it on television with sometimes sterile piped in noise,
Yeah.
or in fact, I prefer just hearing the coaches and players shouting. You get a little bit more of a feel for what it means to them on the pitch. But Nuno, from a national perspective, how's the pandemic helped you, or should I say hindered you in reaching your fans?
Yeah, I think as Dee mentioned previously, Portugal has also that same global footprint. So for a number of years, we've been engaging with our fans everywhere in the world. So we did some experiences even before the pandemic that actually, looking back, it really helped us find some solutions as the pandemic hit football really hard. For example, in previous years, we've done an experience which was the virtual stands, which you've now seen in the Premier League and other leagues, where we've brought fans, for example, from Canada, from the US, from Southeast Asia, to the stadium via video. So we did that before the pandemic. We did that experience. We connected fans in North America, in Asia, in South America, and we brought them to a few games that happened in Lisbon. And the guys were on the Jumbotrons, they were on the LED around the pitch. And basically they had the opportunity to kind of support the team in real time, even being 3,000 miles away. When the pandemic hit us really hard, we created that experience especially targeted at diehard fans. We placed big screens at the stadiums, and we connected basically the fans that could no longer go to the stadium. They were connected, and actually during the broadcast, you could see the fans kind of cheering for their team. And something that was really special was at the end of the games, the team would actually go towards the massive screens and thank those fans. And that experience was actually amazing for the fans who had the opportunity to participate. But then also from a broadcasting perspective, people at home, it's enriched that experience as well. It's something that we've now seen, as I said, in the Premier League, La Liga, and other leagues adopted it. We did a few other things that were quite special. We created, for example, a cartoons series targeted at kids who love the national team. And basically we had the national team cartoon characters teaching the kids how to wash their hands, how to keep social distancing, what type of healthy food they could be eating whilst being stuck at home, and what type of exercises they could continue doing. So we created that to still continue to engage with the kids. We did something for families as well. We had our athletes, Bruno Fernandes, Ruben Diaz.
We like Bruno Fernandes, Nuno.
Yes, he's an amazing player and a great human being. And he actually helped us a lot during the pandemic, because we had a series of sports challenges where the national team players were actually doing a physical challenge, and then they would ask the fans to kind of replicate it and even try to beat the number of push-ups or abs that these guys were doing. And so the fans were connected. The players were actually living the same situation at the time, because football stopped and they were at home. So fans and players, they were kind of living same sort of situation, and it really helped them. And then we created stuff like e-football tournaments, where we had people like João Felix from Atletico Madrid, or Diogo Jota, who's at Liverpool. And these guys, they were the ambassadors for e-football tournaments that we did, and that we kept our fans engaged through all these different types of activations. Plus, I should say, all the social responsibility piece, the national team and the players, they all provided their image, and they created some videos to help raise some funds to help hospitals and the emergency relief fund in Portugal. So the players were critical at this point in time to actually give back. We raised more than 4 million euros that went straight into helping hospitals purchase ventilators, masks, and then food for the relief fund, because a lot of families were out of work. And this work was very important. And basically the message during these 10 months now, almost 11 months of pandemic, has been, you guys are there for the team when the team needs you. You cheer us on and you help us win. So this is the time that we are here for you guys. So I think the message, the main message during these last few months was that, and we targeted all our work and activation to show our fans that we are here to help them in the community. Yeah,
listen, that's fantastic. And I think it's fair to say that, you know, some of your fantastic players, they're not alone over here as well. I mean, clearly, I'm sure you're aware what Marcus Rashford has been doing, but also, I mean, all football teams here in the UK, and I'm sure around the world, the efforts that they've been going and that extra mile that they've been doing to help people at these times. And quite often, people just look at these footballers and think, well, they're earning that money and they're doing this and doing that, but you know, they're humans, and clearly, I think they're touching a lot of hearts as well over the last few months with some of the work they're doing. Look, if I can follow up on another question with you, Nuno, do you feel there's any sort of fundamental differences between marketing to national team diehard fans and marketing to a club diehard fans, which we can discuss with Dee, Chris, and Alex after?
Yeah, I think obviously there are a few differences, big differences, because in one hand, when you talk about clubs, there's a lot of rivalry. Even domestically, you have rival fans. They all have their own team. They support their team. When you're talking about the national team, everyone is cheering for the same team. So we're all on the same boat. So in terms of marketing to these fans, it becomes completely different, because it's very democratic, and you know that everyone is on board and everyone is supporting the same side. So obviously this makes a big difference. And then with that comes a different aspect, which is because you have less of that rivalry, also the atmosphere in the stadiums, it's more friendly during national team games. And the type of fans you see at our matches, actually you have a lot of families, more families on average that probably you would see at the club level. So, I mean, for us, this is great. And we basically end up marketing to the whole family. So, and this is, I think, quite different from clubs. So we do a lot of activations and promotions targeted at families, and the tone also becomes a little bit different, I guess, a bit more friendly, and yeah.
No, I mean, it's interesting because, I mean, look, I've been a football fan, well, all my life, and I think all my friends would always put their club above their country. Now, I know that's very different in many other sports, but if I could just ask yourself, Dee, from looking after fans out at miles and miles away from Germany, from Munich, what's the situation there? Are they more Munich fans than German fans?
I think when you look at the club country discussion, I think for FC Bayern and Germany, it really goes hand in hand. And it's because there've traditionally been so many FC Bayern players on the German team. There were, I believe, in '74, when Germany won the World Cup, there were 7 players. In 1990, there were 6 players. 2014, there were 7 FC Bayern players. So really, it goes hand in hand. I would say one trend we saw in Latin America was definitely an uptake in fans who were watching in the World Cup, for example. We've made a lot of Argentinian fans happy with the 2014 game against Brazil. So we find that a lot of followers also come through that way as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, for us, I think it goes hand in hand, very much so.
Cool. Okay. And Chris, what about yourself?
Yeah, it's an interesting one for us just because I think our club is very associated with the American national team. I mean, Landon Donovan is sort of our greatest ever player and potentially our national team's greatest ever player. So on one hand, we're really, really proud of those connections. But on the other hand, LA is so diverse that getting involved in that, I think you annoy as many people as you make happy. And there's probably more Mexican national team fans in LA than any other place outside of Mexico. Not to mention the myriad of other countries that our fans come like also support, whether it be Central America or from Europe. So it's a tricky one that I think, stay away from. I don't know. We're proud. We celebrate our players as they're involved. That's a gateway to kind of organically talk about it. But for the other, but for the most part, we try to kind of stay out of it just because of how diverse our fan base is, and just the backgrounds of our fans just come from so many places that we just don't want to exclude really anyone from being a Galaxy fan.
Yeah, no, clearly understand that. Well, how about yourself, Alex, in terms of the difference between your national team, Ukraine, and Donetsk fans?
Right. Well, in terms of ultras, when national team plays, they sort of have they stop rivalry. So ultras unite together and then support the team. But in terms of marketing to the fans, Federation often comes to us whenever there is a game in wherever stadium we're playing. The Federation comes to us and they ask for to help them basically market the game. So how we do it pretty straightforward. We say, all right, we're going to help you with the marketing wherever needs to be done, but we always will find a great deal for our loyal fans. So we ask them to have specific product offering, specific tickets for our diehard fans, and that's how we operate. We're sort of trying to build up loyalty towards the brand and trying to get our fans the best deals they can get through us, and then help out the Federation to market a specific game whenever it's feasible and possible. So we try to utilize every opportunity to bring value for our fans, because in the nutshell, football loyalty is about really, you cannot buy loyalty. You need to sort of grow it and develop it with fans, and there are no shortcuts about it. So we're trying, whatever we do, we're trying to find this value for our core fan.
Are you a Shakhtar fan first and then a Ukraine fan second? Is that how it works over there?
Well, me personally, it's not even the question you need to answer. Obviously, the Shakhtar fan. But I think generally speaking, the country that they support, the national team is the number one team within the country. But there are ultras, I'm not sure about them, and some of our diehard fans, I'm not sure about them. So it's out there, but we don't really need to figure this one out. We sort of work with our fan base.
Yeah. Just still on this question, if I can come back to you, Nuno, because I'm aware that there is no national. You're not playing at a national stadium. You're sort of travelling the country a little bit like the England team did when Wembley was being built. And I personally experienced it. If I'm honest, there's much more passion and much more noise and fervour when a game was being played at Old Trafford or at St James's Park or something. So to tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fantastic because we don't have a national stadium. Okay, the national team doesn't have an HQ. We have an HQ. It's called City of Football. This is where the team trains and prepares. It's in Lisbon. But then we don't have a single stadium that belongs to the national team. And part of it is the team travels to all parts of Portugal, and even sometimes abroad where we have big communities of fans, like Switzerland or Paris, or even in Luxembourg. We've done games there because there are so many Portugal fans. Yeah. But the good thing about being able to go from north to south to the Madeira Islands, where Cristiano Ronaldo is from, to the Azores, is that we can be close to our fans. We take the team to them and we allow the opportunity for different fans. So we don't always have the same fans on every game. If you're speaking from a marketing point of view, of course, it's harder because you're not always targeting the same let's call it consumer group, fan group. So you have to adapt your strategies, your promotion, depending on which region the game will be played at. But the joy you see when the national team comes into town, because basically that's what happens. It's a road show, it's a tour, and the team comes into your region, into town, and the local population, the local fans, they get so excited, and there's so much activity around the game that I think it also helps to unify the country and helps to unify our fan base. Everyone gets the same opportunity to see the national team live near their home. I think it's a great thing despite the challenges. It's great for the fans.
And of course, you've got a pretty exciting team with pretty exciting players and a pretty successful team as well. So that all helps in the mix, doesn't it?
Not a bad team at all, I would say. But even for the players, because the players, they all come from different parts of the country. For them, it's a joy when they go back to their hometown. They just love it, and there's an extra piece of of action to kind of talk about and to do, because it's focused on different players every time. We love it, and we love the fact that the team has helped us. When we played North, for example, we played North the final of Nations League last year,
yeah.
and we won it, and it was amazing. And the fans, they were critical for us to kind of obtain that victory, and it was really nice to celebrate the trophy with the fans in Porto, because, for example, in 2016, the team won the European Championship, which was again amazing. But when they returned to the country, the celebration, the big celebration, the day after was in Lisbon. So this allows us as well to kind of celebrate and live these special moments in different parts of the world, and it's just amazing. And again, to have won it in France, it's where we have a huge fan base, including a lot of Portuguese immigrants. I think there's like 1 million Portuguese immigrants in Paris alone. So
we have noticed on our power index you score quite highly in France, so that you give me the reason why now. And I'm just waiting for Ronaldo to come back for his last couple of years at Old Trafford and link up with Bruno Fernandes. That will do very nicely. Chris, back to you. The last question we've got on our own sort of deck, but I know there's some questions coming in anyway. So any questions, please fire them to me or fire them through Charlie at Soccerex, and I'll get hold of them. But Chris, our last question I wanted to discuss with the panel was, I'm interested to understand are there any differences between diehard fans in the world of football, soccer, versus other sports? And come to you particularly first, because you're in a situation where football isn't the biggest sport in your country.
Yeah, sort of mentioned it earlier, but we view the atmosphere at our games, and that is driven solely by diehard fans and our supporters, as the biggest thing that distinguishes our sport and the biggest driver of growth of our sport compared to other North American sports. I mean, it's incredibly crowded sports landscape in the States, especially in Los Angeles, where I think there's 11 total professional sports teams. Every major North American sports we have 2 really big professional teams here in LA. So the thing that really helps us stand out is our experience at our games. So that is why we think diehard fans and making sure the relationship with them is in a good spot is so important. So that's our marketing reflects that. Our marketing, we want to show that we're different. We want to show that there's a unique culture around our games, a unique culture with our fans, and you're not just cheering on a franchise, you're joining a club. So that is the sort of key messaging we try to get across in our marketing. And I personally believe the live sports experience at baseball or basketball or American football, I don't know, it's not as good probably as watching it on TV. And watching it in your house and with a flat screen and 3 other games on, and you can. But I'm not worried about soccer, football, that being a problem, just because of how much we prioritize the atmosphere and the game day experience. So yeah, I think it's really positioned us uniquely and for growth, and just in how much we've invested in our atmosphere and our fan experience. And again, that's all driven through the relationship with our diehard fans.
Sure. And D, from your perspective, looking after Bayern Munich diehard fans out in New York, have you noticed anything? Are you aware of the differences between the different sports diehard fans?
Yes, absolutely. So as Chris already mentioned, soccer is still growing in the States. And I think when we started talking to people about soccer in the States, when we first got out there, everyone was like, oh, okay, it's a 0-0 game. There's no goals in this, like, what's going on? So we thought
that Simpson, have you seen that Simpson takeoff of football? When literally 2 teams,
right.
Passing.
Yeah.
Eventually everyone just, do they fight? They go to sleep or something, don't they?
Exactly. So we found that we were saying to people, okay, let's try and explain our fandom, and then maybe that will kind of get people hooked. But then the atmospheres, as Chris said, at kind of the NBA games, the NFL games, they're not quite the same. But we did start saying to people that the atmosphere in college football games in the States is probably the closest to European soccer games. And it's because there too is tribal. It's passed down through generations. Once you have a college team, a family really deviates from it. Also, the 12th man is so hugely important in college football games as well. They sell out 100,000 seat stadiums at the drop of a hat. They're always full. So that was the best way for us to explain what soccer is like. And what we did is we actually teamed up with Texas A&M, a big college football team, and we took one of their fans to our game in Munich. And basically we filmed their journey, and they were talking about their experience at a Texas A&M game and just how similar it is to be at a European soccer game, in particular at our stadium at the Allianz Arena. And that was a really interesting take, and we got some really good feedback, and people are like, oh, I get it now. I get what it's about, the fandom. So I think that's probably the closest American sport to European soccer.
That's really interesting. I hadn't even thought of that, actually. Yeah, I can see exactly where that comes from. Alex, how about in Ukraine? What sports are you competing against for the pound or the euro or what is it, by the way, in Ukraine? I'm not quite sure.
It's hryvnia, but we don't really compete against other sports. The name of the game, we're competing against cinemas. We're competing against other entertainment providers. In fact, we don't really get too much revenue from TV rights. So our main revenue streams are match day sales, as well as sponsorship deals and online content, the content that we produce. So effectively, we're competing against the TV viewership directly. One of the most important thing in terms of match day attendance is, again, the atmosphere at the stadium. The marketing that we're doing is geared towards getting person to the stadium, and then once those fans are at the stadium, we want to make sure that their behavior is similar to ultras. They come in and come back to every game. And in terms of ultras, again, that they provide this extra kick for all of the fans and for the team. And this is really a unique situation. I don't think any of the other sports, at least here in Ukraine, back the same amount of loyalty and punch as football games.
No, sure. And I'm assuming, Nuno, soccer's kind of out on its own in many respects, but are there any other sports, and do you see diehard fans in other sports in Portugal?
No, I think obviously football is the big one, by far. But as it was just mentioned, I think nowadays what we look at is other types of entertainment, and especially after the pandemic, when sports kind of stopped, and kids, they cannot play football at the moment, or they cannot play sports because everything is kind of on pause. Yeah. This is a big issue for not just for Portugal, but I'm talking now globally. We have a decrease at the moment in terms of participation, whether it be athletes or fans, because the sport has stopped. People are spending maybe more time watching Netflix or other means of entertainment. So I think even when things go back to normal, hopefully it will happen soon. I think we will have to put a lot of hard work in to recover the number of athletes and fans we may have lost. Globally, I'm speaking football as a global sport, and on behalf of everyone, we will have to really work hard to kind of make people excited again about football, excited about playing football, excited about watching football with filled stadiums, and hopefully, continue to grow the numbers, because our sport, thankfully, has been growing for a number of years, and it seems that it will continue that way. But the pandemic is really a big rock on our way right now. So I think all our jobs in terms of marketing to fans, whether it be Diehard fans or others, is very important. And I think Diehard fans, the ones that will not go away, they have stuck with us even during the pandemic. These guys will be key to help us spread the message.
Totally, and I totally agree with that. Believe it or not, we've only got a minute left, guys. That went pretty quick, didn't it? I have had a great question here, actually, and I'd love to shout it out and ask you all of it, but I'm going to read it anyway. We probably aren't going to have time to answer it. Is it possible to be authentic in marketing to a group who are the heart and soul of a club, or do they react negatively to being sold their own identity? And I think this, going back to that point I made at the beginning, a half and half club. I go to Manchester United to support my team, and there's a Liverpool brand on the scarf with Manchester United brand. How could that ever work? Is there sort of sometimes are we doing things that actually are going to upset people, upset Diehard fans, and make them think, does my club even know who I am? I think it probably is the case. I don't think we've got time to talk very much about that because we haven't got the seconds left on this clock, which are going down and down and down even as I talk now. Listen, guys, it's been fantastic talking to you all. We got your friend out in Ukraine as well. No, she's just gone again. I'd love to come and watch you at Donetsk. I've seen you play at Old Trafford. I've been to the Allianz Arena many, many times. Unfortunately, you haven't won them all. Mainly draws, and there was a cracking goal by Patrice Evra. We lost. I've been out to LA and I've seen Rashford score, and of course I've been to Portugal. Over to the studio.